Recently I made a video where I was talking about the finish that I had on this marking gauge. I showed it to a friend of mine and he said, what are you talking about? Burnishing. Burnishing is when you use a card scraper. Yes and no. Let me explain. I'm Thomas and this is I Don't Know What I'm Doing. The definition of varnishing boils down to polishing. Anything that you polish, you're basically varnishing. The term originally, burnishing, started out as a stone with a groove cut into it used to polish axe heads, stone axe heads. Since then it has come to mean burnishing metal, polishing metal. So when you're using Brasso or bar top cleaner or whatever that stuff is, you're varnishing something. When you're using sandpaper, you're varnishing something. Sandpaper, a file, if you're smoothing a piece of wood out or a piece of metal out, you're varnishing it. If you're using a card scraper, like this one here that many woodworkers use, you are varnishing. So my friend was correct, but he was also a little bit wrong. Now what I was talking about in the other video was that my Polissoir is in very bad shape and I need to make another one. It's starting to unravel because I've worn it down to this point. I'll fix that later on. Maybe I'll show you about it in a future video. But I was looking for something to use to make the polish on my gauge, and I ended up using a scrap piece of loofah, which put an amazing finish on it. We'll do another video about that later on, just exploring it to see what we've got. But basically, burnishing is polishing. That's all it boils down to. So when you hear people talking about it, that's what we're talking about. Now, in a book by a dude named A.J. Roubo, or however it's pronounced, I'm not very good with French pronunciation, so forgive me. Got a quick reference on this. His book is L'Art du Menuiser. I have no idea. Anyway, it's an old book from several centuries ago. And Roubo was talking about using the Polissoir as a form of wood finishing. It's not practiced anymore by a majority of people because there's so many other different polishes and stains and other techniques that you can use to make a nice wood finish. But the Polissoir is usually taken, all it is a bunch of straw that is bound together by a twine or a rope, and then it is soaked in a melted wax solution so that it's absorbed up in there. And then the end of it, this is just a rough end, I didn't bother to do this, but it is chopped clean, and then you take it and with a piece of wood and the wax, and you can dip the wax into it to get a little bit more on there. You just rub it in, and what it does is it fills in those cracks. The straws or grass, as Roubo had said, will fill in and sand down the surface that you're working on. So it will create a very nice, smooth, shiny polish, and you've seen it in some of the old French furniture if you've looked at any of the original woodworking. Now there's a gentleman named Don Williams, and I'll link to his videos below in the descriptions. He's probably the modern day expert on the Polissoir method of polishing, and he shows in his videos a dry method where there is no wax and it still looks amazing, and then he shows a wax-filled version of it which looks amazing, and I'm going to let the expert tell you about how to use it, what to do, and everything like that. I'm also going to link in the description below an article from Popular Woodworking by Chris Schwartz, who talks about Roubo's methods. It's really kind of informative, and I'll also post in a link or an excerpt from Roubo's book about the Polissoir. But like I say, I don't know what I'm doing. I just kind of like the finish of it. I mess around with it. I do it quite a bit, as you can tell, because I've torn up my Polissoir. It's a nice finish. It works really, really well. It's something that had been used for who knows how long, centuries perhaps. And Roubo was fortunate enough to write about it all over his book, which, like I said, is still available. It's very expensive, but it's still available. So if it's been around for centuries and then he wrote about it and people are willing to pay up to $60 a copy for the book, then there's some good information in there and it's worth looking into. The technique is worth reviving, I believe, but you know, that's up to you. Like I say, the modern techniques are wonderful. You can give it a try if you like. I would recommend it, but then again, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I will explore showing you how to make one. And oh, there's also going to be a video in the description below of a guy who actually does make one, probably a lot better than I ever could. And it's worth looking into. And it's not the only technique. Mine is not the only technique for making these things. There's several different ways you can do it. Roubo says that things should be, and he measures things in thumb length. So he says, it should be, I think, 2 thumb lengths wide and 6 thumb lengths long. Obviously, this one is not. I used it for small material to get into tight places, and he mentions in there that it's used to get into tight places. So, like I said, it's a technique that if you're a woodworker, a craftsman, it's worth looking into. Take a closer look at it, please. I'm Thomas, and this is I Don't Know What I'm Doing. Subscribe to it, and if there's any videos that you want me to do showing how to do something that you don't know how to do, or if there's a video that you'd like to see me doing, such as my garbage disposal install, where I didn't know what I was doing, we'll compare what the experts on YouTube say to what a person who really doesn't know what he's doing is involved in installing something or trying a technique of some sort. So subscribe below, click the like button, and tell me what you like. The comments, good or bad, will be interesting.